Hey everyone, it's Jacqueline for Pixie Dust PhD. In this video, we will be doing a fun question and answer session. For the last 4 years of this channel, so on every yearly anniversary, I have done this. I think it's quite a fun tradition, so thank you to everyone who sent in questions. I got quite a few questions to my email where your email was formatted such that I couldn't discern your name necessarily, but thank you for your questions. And additionally, thanks to Tara, Justin, Mandy, and Jill for their questions through various social media platforms. If you're interested in the standard monthly creator update where we go over some theme park news as well as the stats and analytics for the channel for the last month, lifetime, and in this case for year 4, then head over to this video that was just recently posted. But let's go ahead and get into it, and I'll start with introducing myself. And for those of you who've been around for a while, you can always check the description below for timestamps to jump around if you want to skip this part. I grew up in Washington State and moved out to the East Coast to pursue my PhD. After completing my PhD, I then moved to the DC area for career reasons. My partner Adam and I still live in the DC area. We like it a lot. We have a middle-aged dog. She is a caissoned. We are not legally married, although we are in a committed relationship, and we do not plan to have kids. I do indeed actually have a PhD. It is in biomedical engineering. I am no longer actively a scientist in the sense that I don't go and work on the bench every day. I'm not pipetting things, making solutions, all that kind of stuff that you imagine as science. I don't have to put on a lab coat, but all of my jobs have required a PhD in biological sciences. I certainly am using my training very well. My partner Adam is not a scientist. He works in a totally different field, and I think that works out well for us. Prior to starting the channel, I have absolutely no background or training in video editing or content creation, anything like this. This really is just a hobby for me. It's been a fun way to learn some new skills, get to know some of the community, and put my thoughts out there. All right, let's move into some community submitted questions. I've essentially grouped these by theme, so we'll start with the theme of the Walt Disney World Resort. Tara asked what my favorite Epcot festival is, and that is tricky. I have not properly been to Flower and Garden. We have been during Epcot Light when they were switching between festivals, and so Flower and Garden was pretty much set up, the topiaries were out, but the booths weren't open and stuff, so I would say I haven't actually done Flower and Garden. Then I think we've only done the Festival of the Arts once and the Holidays Festival once, and we've done Food and Wine a handful of times. I think probably the Holiday Festival is my favorite. It's hard to disentangle that from the holidays in general, which I just think is an extra magical time of year, so it's super fun to be at Disney World when it's so magical, and then on top of Disney World it's holidays, so it's extra magical, and all the Santa stories. I like that sort of warm, cozy food. I like the weather that time of year. So yeah, probably holidays. I also did really enjoy our time at Festival of the Arts, and I think that would be my runner-up. No hate to Food and Wine, it just kind of is what it is. I don't think it's anything extra special per se. Another question for the Walt Disney World Resort is, what are my favorite Disney Springs locations? This is a funny one because I'm not a big proponent of Disney Springs. I actually think it's essentially just an outdoor mall. And so if you have time and want to go, heck yeah, I've done that before. But some of the discourse online is you have to make time to go to Disney Springs, and I personally disagree. But anyway, I really like the Uniqlo shop there. They always have some fun Disney teas that I don't have at my local Uniqlo. And particularly if there are kids in your life, whether they are your own kids or friends' kids, family's kids that you end up buying gifts for, the prices at Uniqlo are extremely reasonable, so I definitely get birthday gifts and Christmas gifts there. I very much enjoy the Jock Lindsay's Hangar Bar. I think it's a good place to hang out and grab a pretty solid drink. Also, increasingly, I find myself returning to Boathouse just to go to the bar. I've never actually dined there properly, but I like sitting at the bar, whether that's the indoor bar or the outdoor bar over at the water. Mostly they have fried clam strips, which is a big craving for me. It's something I grew up eating out west that I have a really hard time finding where I live now. So yes, I will walk myself over there, plop down, order some clam strips, order a drink, and have a great time. Wine Bar George is very good. There's no taking away from that. I do just think it's more on the expensive end. And I leave every time having enjoyed myself, but I also am questioning, was that really worth the price? That is kind of how wine bars are in general, though. I don't even think that's a Wine Bar George specific thing, or because it's in Disney Springs, the wine bars near where we live. Also, I leave with the same feeling. And then we went to Morimoto Asia for the first time for dinner, and it was phenomenal. It blew my mind. It was so good. It was definitely expensive. It was date night. It was an occasion, but I would highly recommend it. Let me know what some of your favorite spots in Disney Springs are. I think I've kind of gravitated toward the same spots now, and I don't really go explore, but Oh, I will also say I do always enjoy walking past the Lego store too. I don't always wait to go inside because sometimes that's quite the line, but I love the displays. And last in the Walt Disney World Resort category is, what's a resort I'd like to stay at? Now that we own Disney Vacation Club, I feel like there is a very, very slim chance we ever stay anywhere that's not Disney Vacation Club. We'll either be using points to stay on property or paying a much smaller rate and staying off property, most likely. So there's all of the values and all of the moderates that I feel like I probably will never get to. And of those, I'm really very interested in staying in Grand Casino Tower. Every time we go visit to eat at Three Bridges or go to the bar or whatever, it's like such a vibe, and I just want to know what those rooms are like. I think it'd be very fun to stay there. The other one that really piques my interest is there are like royal rooms that are themed to princesses at Port Orleans, and I'm a sucker for a good princess theme. The next category is Disney Vacation Club related questions. And the first question there is the property that I'm most excited about trying next. Definitely for me, Villas at Disneyland Hotel, not only because I'm an owner, but just because like the vibe there is very me. Like that is absolutely my aesthetic, so I think I'm just going to love it. Plus that'll be our return to Disneyland. We've only been once as adults, so I am excited to get back there. TBD exactly when that'll be, but that's definitely the one I'm most excited for next. If we're looking just at Walt Disney World, that's a little tougher. I think Adam and I have really fell into enjoying staying at Boardwalk and Bay Lake Tower. And then so you kind of maybe add one more in, but honestly, if we did split stages between Boardwalk and Bay Lake Tower, I think we'd be super happy. But in terms of a new DVC location at Walt Disney World, I think maybe Grand Floridian is next on my mental list. Adam and I haven't discussed this at all, but we haven't stayed there yet. It's the last one on the monorail loop. I'd be interested in giving it a try. Grand Floridian's not really my vibe per se, just aesthetically it feels a little stuffy to me. I mean, I think it's beautiful, but again, I'm a Villas at Disneyland Hotel kind of like mod girl, and this Victorian era is not that. But yeah, I'm open to changing my mind, so I do think I'd be interested in staying there. I was also asked about a DVC property that I'll never stay at, and I think the easiest answer is Hilton Head. I've never been to a beach in South Carolina, but my partner's been, I think, a handful of times, and he really has no interest in returning, and I don't care enough to like push that argument and be like, no, we have to go. So yeah, Hilton Head is just, we have no plans to go there in general, so why would we spend our DVC points there? If we're looking at less of an easy answer and narrowing in just at Walt Disney World, I mean, I think there's a decent chance we'll end up staying everywhere at least once just due to points allocation or availability, things like that. But one that I'm really not targeting is Old Key West. I actually think the property is pretty nice in terms of dining, the amenities, the room size is obviously extremely generous. Maybe we end up staying there in a one bedroom, but I'm really thinking about us traveling how we normally do, which is in studios. And for us, because it's just two of us, I just have no need for two proper beds, and I would rather stay in a studio that has one real bed and then like a couch and a sitting area, etc. So I just wouldn't target Old Key West per se, and especially if points rates are equivalent, I would probably rather go stay at Animal Kingdom. I did also get several people asking me if I'm still happy with my Disney Vacation Club purchases and if there's anything that I would change. Overall, I would say yeah, I'm definitely still happy with them, especially the Bay Lake Tower contract has proven extremely fruitful. It's still pretty young in our Villas at Disneyland Hotel contract to know really how we'll feel about that in the long term, especially since we haven't even stayed at that property. But even without having stayed there, I will say that contract has given us official membership, right? We now have 150 points bought directly through Disney, so we're no longer limited. We can use those points at places like Riviera, at the new cabins at Fort Wilderness, any of the other new resorts. The dues on those are a little high, but at least they're much less high than the cabins dues, so in retrospect, I am fairly happy with that choice. In terms of if there's anything I'd change, I wouldn't change my home resorts. I have thought about maybe we could have picked a different use year. So we have an August use year. That's because Adam and I tend to travel like September through February or so is really our sweet spot, in which case for that alone, the August use year makes a ton of sense. But then in thinking about Disneyland, part of the impetus is that my family still lives out west. I would like to host them at Disneyland. And so there are children involved, which means it's spring break or summer. So then, especially for summer, having the August use year is not as great. So in retrospect, maybe like a March use year would have worked out better to accommodate both my travel habits in terms of when me and my partner are traveling and then also school breaks. But, those kids were very not on my radar when we were like deciding to make our first purchase. And honestly, the August use year is still very doable. The next category of questions I've lumped together as hobbies. So several folks asked what I do for fun and like what a sad reflection moment for me because I work a lot and then I work on the vlog and I like pat my dog and stuff. I don't have a ton of like proper hobbies outside of the vlog. Adam and I do go out to happy hour somewhat regularly. We try to meet up with friends, grab drinks. We like exploring the city a lot. There's always a new place to go to, new drinks to try, new small bites, so that's super fun. We also watch quite a lot of sports. I think that probably counts as a hobby. I'm going to count it. So 2024, for example, is an Olympic year, so I am really gearing up. I love elite gymnastics. It's such a big part of my life, so definitely paying a lot of attention to that. I also watch a ton of college gymnastics, college football. My partner watches a lot of college basketball, which means I inadvertently watch a lot of college basketball. Same with English Premier League. That's not really a top one for me, but I end up watching kind of a lot of it. And we're both baseball and hockey fans. My partner watches way more pro football than I do, but I will watch for sure. And then he also watches some pro basketball, and I pretty much don't watch that. But yeah, we kind of always have sports on. I definitely think that's a hobby for me. Next, I believe it was Tara who asked what my favorite genre of books is, and this is gonna make me also sound so boring, but I really just like nonfiction. If I want a super easy read, just some sort of autobiography by typically a comedian, like a funny celebrity, those tend to be small, pithy, like short essay style. In many cases, those are fun. Maybe slightly more challenging. I really like the sort of pop culture essay genre. That's not really a genre, but you'll see where I'm going. So like Chuck Klosterman's probably one of my favorite authors, if not my favorite author. And yeah, every book I've read that he's written is just, like, to me, so engaging. I learn a ton. It's interwoven into pop culture. There's usually a really good theme that flows throughout it, so I would highly recommend it. I think one of my favorites is probably I Wear the Black Hat. And then if I really want to be more intellectually stimulated, I do sometimes read more like political writing or like feminist writing, so Rebecca Traister is also one of my favorite authors. That being said, I've really fallen off reading. Undergrad through grad school, I really didn't read for pleasure at all because reading was such a huge part of my job. And then my first job out of grad school was pretty, it was hard, but it was pretty regular. Like, you worked 8.5 hours most of the time, and that was that. And so I had more time to myself, so I did read a fair amount then. And then the next job I had varied, like some weeks were very intense, some were easier, so I still did read some then, but really, especially since pandemic, the amount I have read has plummeted. I probably need to pick that back up. And then if I'm not reading nonfiction, I'm almost certainly reading science fiction. I dabble in science fiction a lot. I would say I don't have like a subgenre of that I definitely gravitate toward, but I do really enjoy Philip K. Dick. He's probably my favorite science fiction author. And to follow up on that, Tara asked about if I've read about any like Disney-inspired books, looking at the history, things like that. And the answer is like mostly not really. I did read Creativity Inc., which is Ed Catmull's book. He was a co-founder of Pixar. I think the book was pitched as like a corporate book, so if you were like a corporate person, you could read this and find a way to have more creative, better teams and be more productive because of that. But I really enjoyed the aspects that were looking at like the start of Pixar. I thought that was really interesting. And then I do have The Ride of a Lifetime, which is Bob Iger's book. I just haven't started it yet, so we'll see how that goes. It'll be very funny to read that now, because I believe he was writing that when he had retired from Disney, and obviously, like, he's back, so I think that'll give me some good chuckles. Next, let's talk about travel. Several folks inquired about how often I have been to or go to Disney. I know I went a handful of times as a kid. I think at least twice, if not 3 times, to Disneyland Resort, and then I believe twice to the Walt Disney World Resort area. I'm not entirely sure, essentially because I have a long-term memory disorder. So my brain makes memories, but it's like extremely hard for me to recall memories unless they were like keystone moments or whatever. So unless I keep something in my working memory, it kind of goes to die. So I really just don't have memories of these things and can't confirm. As a kid, the last time I went to a Disney park, I would guess I was under 14. It may have even just been 12. And then I didn't return as an adult until I was in graduate school. Adam and I went down to Universal and Disney for about a week in 2015. That was very much a Universal-focused trip, though. But we both definitely left that like, okay, yeah, like this was pretty fun. I would do this again. I think I was certainly more sold on the Disney aspect than Adam, but you know, he was along for the ride. Then 2017, we went down for a week again. That was Disney-focused with just like a little bit of Universal. And by the way, in this case, when I'm saying Disney, I mean Disney World out of laziness. Then in 2019, we went back down to Disney with friends. We were there for like 4.5 days and we just did Disney World. We didn't do Universal that trip. 2021 was our first big trip and our first Disney Vacation Club owner trip. So we went for 2 weeks. That was split between Universal and Disney. Then 2022 was a busy year. I had a friend out on the West Coast getting married in Oregon. So then we decided to tack on a Disneyland resort trip to that. So we were at Disneyland for 3 days. Then we had a flight credit that was expiring, I think was the impetus for this trip, so we ended up just going down to Florida really to see friends, but one of our friends was a cast member at the time and really graciously used his comps to let us in, so we did Epcot for 1 day as well in 2022. Then we also finally got around to our Paris trip in 2022, which we had been soft planning since like 2019. We were hoping to go in 2020, obviously things happened, so we delayed that. Finally got out to Paris and also did Disneyland Paris for about 2.5 to 3 days. Then yeah, our most recent trip was October of 2023, where again we did 2 weeks, we combined Universal and Disney. So looking at this list, I think 2022 makes it seem like we go to Disney all the time, but all of those were extremely happenstance. They were tacked on to other things, or like getting into Epcot was absolutely not part of the plan, and we were just going to go down and hang out with friends, and that would have been totally fine. So if you ignore those, we pretty much go every other year. Then in the other years, we're traveling to other destinations. While we're living out on the East Coast, we're really trying to hit up Europe. So like I said, obviously we've been to Paris, we've done London, we've done various cities in Italy a couple times. We will be heading to Norway. I think Barcelona is also on the list for hopefully the not too distant future, like in the next year and a half or so. Plus, aside from that, there's all the travel within the country for friends' weddings, baby showers, all those types of celebrations. We're just that age where like everyone's seemingly doing the thing all the time. Several folks asked when our next trip was, and we actually have nothing on the books and like nothing really even tentatively planned right now. I'm hoping to maybe host my family in 2025, either spring break or summertime at Disneyland, but that is a little bit up to them in terms of if they want to come. Even though I'd be paying for the hotel, they'd obviously have to deal with flights, getting tickets to the theme parks, also just the whole like chaos of traveling with children. I think if my family doesn't want to do that, Adam and I may still end up going to Disneyland, but yeah, nothing is in the works right now. Honestly, the thing I'm most excited for next year is Epic Universe. It's supposed to open next summer. Maybe we'll go like next December. I don't really think crowds will have died down by then, but at least the weather will be better. And if we end up at Epic Universe, there's a good chance I'll tack on like one day to Disney. I think it's hard for me to be down in that area and not go to Disney for one day, even though the single day ticket prices are outrageous. In terms of our next international Disney parks destination, I really have no clue. Like I just mentioned, going to Disneyland Paris was absolutely a tack on to a larger Paris trip, and I imagine that's how we will treat the international Disney parks in general. Overall, we are waiting to do travel to Asia until we live out on the West Coast. So we have no solid plans for that right now, but eventually we are going to move out there. And so that's when we will start traveling to Japan and China and Korea and Thailand and Singapore and all these places that we really want to go to. But right now, if we went, you'd have to fly all the way across the US and then all the way across the Pacific. Whereas, you know, I can be in Europe in 5.5, 6 hours. So yeah, it's just a strategy decision right now in terms of divvying up our vacations sort of based on where we live, knowing that sometime in the future we will be moving more westward. I personally am most excited to go to Tokyo Disney Resort, but in terms of order, I don't know if that will actually come before Shanghai or Hong Kong. Some of it will probably just be like flight deals, or if we have another reason to go. You know, if one of my friends happens to have a wedding in China, like we will go to China before we will go to Japan. A couple folks emailed in asking if I have any plans to go to Aulani, and the short answer is no. The long answer is very similar to what we just talked about. If I wanted to go to Hawaii right now, it's like a 10-hour flight from where we live, versus if we wait till we live in Colorado or California or wherever we end up, it's, 5-6 hours instead. I'm lucky enough to have been to Hawaii already like 4 or 5 times, just growing up on the West Coast, being an Asian American. It's kind of a normal vacation destination if your family is privileged enough to be able to do that. And especially I think being Asian American, it's also like fairly normal to have an auntie or an uncle there for some reason. I don't really know why, it just does seem to be a thing. But since I moved out east for my graduate program, I have not returned to Hawaii. Adam has never been to Hawaii. It's definitely on our list. It might end up being a stopover on the way to or from Japan or China, etc. It might just be its own destination. When we go, I do think we'll stay like 2 nights at Aulani, but I don't want my whole trip to be there. I don't go to Hawaii just to be like secluded in a resort. I really want to be out and about on the island a ton. And like the little food stalls are super important to me. So I'm sure the food is great at Aulani, but like I need to go to Leonard's and I need to eat some yummy Korean barbecue. And like there's things we got to do that are pretty far from Aulani. Honestly, it's like pretty secluded. So yeah, I'm not going to spend my whole vacation there, but I am excited to check it out. I also got asked if I have any plans to hit up Disney Cruise Line, and I must have mentioned this in passing because our Norway trip is actually a cruise. And so a couple of you asked if that was on Disney. Really, that's a 2-parter, and I'll start with the latter. So no, our Norway cruise is not on Disney Cruise Line. We picked it based on the ports, and the Disney itinerary was like not at all what I wanted. So we will not be sailing Disney Cruise Line for our Norway trip. And then in general for Disney Cruise Line, it's not a forever no, it's just an unlikely no for me. Particularly for sailings in the Caribbean, so those itineraries doing either Eastern or Western Caribbean or both, Disney Cruise Line is very expensive. I think they're very expensive overall, but that's a super easy one for me to compare to other cruises that I consider in the same class as Disney Cruise Line, which I think they're luxury, but like so is Princess, so is Norwegian. And literally Disney's often double the price. Plus that price on Disney Cruise Line is without alcohol. So often if you sail on Norwegian, they have like a 4 free at sea or something and your beverage package is included. Or on Princess, you can buy like the Princess Plus package. I think it's like $60 a person a day, which isn't cheap, don't get me wrong. But then your alcohol up to like $15 drinks is included versus you have to pay, I'm pretty sure on Disney Cruise Line a la carte for all of your alcohol because it's Disney, right? Like they're trying to maintain their brand. Both Adam and I, like in our hearts of hearts, are just kind of frugal people. So we're looking at the itinerary and it's like roughly the same ports. And like, why would I pay twice as much then? Especially for us, a Caribbean cruise is like we're going to chill and to like dissociate and just like sit in the sun and drink. Like, I'm not going really for the ports, I'm not going for the activities. I just want to have a good time. And so we've done exactly that on like a 3 or 4 day cruise on Norwegian. We had the drinks packets, we just like hung out. I don't know if we even got off the boat, honestly, and it was great. And I don't need anything more. And so people always talk about like the Disney difference in service is so much better and all these things. I'm not saying that's not true. I'm just saying it doesn't matter enough to me to pay twice as much. And then if we look outside of the Caribbean, like I know a lot of people like the Alaska cruise. Again, I think I would be looking at ports and deciding based on that. And so if Disney did have the most appealing itinerary to me, fine, I would suck it up and pay for Disney. But I think chances are good that won't be true. And also, yeah, again, the price difference will be a huge factor of like, in that case, we're definitely getting off the boat all the time. So like, why am I paying so much for the dang boat? Also, I know cruise people call it a ship. I know it's a ship. I just like saying boat, okay? The only real pull for me with Disney Cruise is the characters are awesome. I am definitely a big character person. I prioritize them when I'm in the parks. So that does like pull at my heartstrings. But again, it's just not worth the ridiculous price. We might end up on a Disney cruise though, now that we are official DVC members. There is the member cruise. That is something I am more interested in, I guess. Some of the aspect of not wanting to go on a Disney cruise also is like, we don't have kids. I don't want to be surrounded by kids. I don't want to be on a boat full of kids. I know that there are adult areas, but like when a lot of the cabins are going to be higher occupancy because you're shoving kids in there, the ship's just going to be more full. All these things. Like if you have kids, I think obviously Disney Cruise Line could be worth the extra price because the kids clubs are so amazing and they'll be entertained and the characters and the family friendly environment, the familiarity of Disney, all those things. Those things just don't apply to us. But yeah, the member cruise I gather is going to be for fewer kids from what I can tell. It seems a little more special. I don't know. I'm not saying forever no. It just generally seems unlikely to me. And if we were going to go on Disney Cruise Line, I do think it would just be the DVC member cruise. All right, and the last category we'll go over is like the channel and YouTube. Lots of people ask like, why did I even start the channel? And also why is the anniversary in February? The short answer is I effectively started the channel because when doing research in Disney Vacation Club, I was very frustrated with how the information was presented. The information exists out there, it's just not particularly well explained, or it takes people like 40 minutes to explain a very simple concept in my mind, or they're giving you the basics but not like the details of what you really need to think about. So use year, for example, is a big one where I understood what a use year was like right away, but I didn't understand why I was supposed to care. And it probably took me several hours of like digging through various blog posts, forum posts, YouTube videos, podcasts to really piece it all together. And I was just annoyed that like someone could do this in 8 minutes or 12 minutes or whatever and like save people so much time. So I did a ton of DVC research just for me and for our purchase. And I basically had all this knowledge in my brain and was like, well, let's put it on the internet. Maybe it'll be helpful for other people. Obviously, the channel has grown a bit since then. We cover things other than DVC, but that is the heart of the reason why is I didn't like how the information was available, especially in the sort of like content, like social media realm. And I thought I could do it in a way that someone like me would appreciate. So in my head, I was filling a very niche gap, but I do think that has resonated with at least some people. In terms of February, that is a great question, and that sort of worked out because of life circumstances. That wasn't the plan. I claimed the Pixie Dust PhD moniker in September of 2019. And I had intended to start posting January of 2020, like giving myself a few months lead up to like learn the very basics of how to film and edit, have a little bit of a backlog of a catalog to post, all those things. But I ended up getting a new job in Q4 of 2019, so I really just needed more time to settle into that and get my feet underneath me and understand like, oh, like can I balance a new job and a new YouTube channel? And so that took me, an extra month basically, and that's why I started posting in mid-February. Another very good thought-provoking question was, how has the channel changed over time? Very honestly, in terms of the content, I do feel like the theme has shifted a bit over time. While I would love to stay a DVC information content focused channel, the honest truth is I feel like I have covered a vast majority of those important categories already. And so I could reshoot them and refilm them since I'm better at that now. But the information I have to give to you about a use year, about a home resort, etc. is pretty much the same. So we certainly cover less Disney Vacation Club informational content now than we used to. Additionally, this has dropped off recently, but I got into posting shorts for a while. I may try to pick that back up. Obviously, I've been posting vlogs. That's definitely newer for the channel. We didn't really do that at all for the first almost 2 years of its existence, so like half of the channel. And I personally think I've gotten better at filming and editing. It's definitely not like fancy and slick by any means, but I feel more comfortable in front of the camera. I feel more comfortable when I'm editing. I think I do leave a little bit more breathing room before and after my sentences now. I used to like cut it very close and it is a very intense pace, and that was an intentional choice, but I've just decided, you know, we can slow it down a little bit and it can still be fast, quick content. Next, Mandy asked what the hardest part of working to grow the channel has been, and woof. Definitely consistently posting has been a really hard thing for me. I think there's been several times, especially in the past year, where I've just felt like I was drowning and there was like no way I was gonna get an upload out, and I have managed to, which I'm very proud of, but I still feel that way right now where I'm like, I don't know what's gonna happen, honestly. I also think truly, like, as a person that looks for logic and reason behind everything, it's been really hard for me to watch, like, the subscriber number be so extremely variable, and I can't explain it. And variable month to month, but then year to year, like year 2, year 3, year 4, pretty much the same. So it's hard not to get super frustrated at those aspects, and I try really hard to like look at them and reflect for a minute, but then sort of throw it in the garbage and just like move on with my life. But yeah, that's definitely a challenge. Like, how do you even get new subscribers? I don't know. Then also, this is a one-person show. So yes, like Adam does appear in videos sometimes, but I do everything. I come up with the ideas. If it's an information video, I spend a lot of time making sure that I'm getting everything needed for that video. I write the scripts. I do all of the graphics that you see come on screen. I film by myself. Like, no one is ever watching me film. So if I make mistakes, like, then I have to figure out how to deal with it in the edit. No one is, you know, there helping me while I'm filming to catch those mistakes, so I can just redo it real fast. Yeah, I film on my own. I edit on my own. I do all the captions by myself. I do the title, the description, the thumbnail. Like, it's all just me. I think that might honestly be the hardest part of maintaining the channel, which I guess goes into growth of the channel. It's just like, it's a solo activity, which also means like, if I'm working on the channel, Adam and I aren't spending time together. And I think there is some amount of guilt on my end of like, well, we could be hanging out and like enjoying each other, but no, I need to go work on the channel right now or else I won't have an upload. He does play rec soccer once or twice a week, so I do get a couple hours a week where he's out doing something by himself that I always dedicate to the channel. But the amount of time it takes to put together videos is typically more on the like 8 to 10 hour scale, and Adam's not off playing soccer for 8 to 10 hours a week. It's definitely a challenge, like trying to maintain the channel, keep everything up, doing it all by myself, balance it with work and my personal life and seeing friends and traveling and everything. Like, I certainly understand why you see channels go dark for 2 months and then come back. Like, life does just happen, but for me, I think that the consistency of posting has been a key to my minimal success, and so I do try really hard to keep up with that. And also, I kind of am like an all or nothing person. Like, if I'm actively working out, chances are very good I'm doing some amount of workout every day. It's like impossible for me mentally to like work out 3 days a week. Like, I do something or I don't. So with YouTube, it's like I will post at least once a week, or if I let it slide, I am concerned that I would just like let it slide forever. Justin asked what my goals for year 5 are, and definitely 2,000 subscribers. If we wanted to have a super stretch goal, 2,500 subscribers, I don't think that there's any chance that that will happen, but hey, let's shoot for the stars. Also, sort of building on what we just talked about, just sort of maintaining the channel, like being able to continue to post regularly, even if that means I have to go down to like every other week for a little period or whatever it might be. I want the channel to not die. I know that's a very lame goal, but I think it is quite realistic for me. I also do want to do a good job covering the Tower of the Polynesian. Hopefully that information does not all drop while I am overseas. Then Jill asked about long-term goals of the channel. So if we really wanted to shoot big, I mean, getting a YouTube play button would be super cool, but I think you have to have minimum 100,000 subscribers. So yeah, I mean, at the current pace of like 450 subscribers a year, that's obviously never happening. That's definitely a shooting for the stars moment. It's not like a realistic goal by any means. But yeah, I think keeping the channel up and especially staying in touch with the DVC content and community, like even if I am not posting every week anymore 3 years from now, if DVC news comes out, I do want to throw that up on the channel. Longer term, I would like to see the subscriber count year to year grow instead of basically stay stagnant. Again, that's something I feel like I don't have a ton of control over, with the exception of if I posted a lot more, which as we talked about, I just don't have the bandwidth to do. So yeah, I don't know, maybe I'll look into that. Very honestly, with life in general, not just the channel, but like with work, with like personal life goals, I try to stay super like short-term, narrowly focused about, okay, this week here's what I'm gonna get done, and next week here's what I'm gonna get done. And that's kind of about it. Like, setting big long-term goals is just not really how I operate. But I would like to stay in the community. I think that is a long-term goal. Maybe that's on this channel. Maybe it just becomes on some other form of social media. I'm not too sure, but I don't want to just disappear. And I want all the work we've done collaboratively to like build relationships to be maintained. Thanks so much for everyone who submitted questions. I always super love doing this. I think it's really fun. And while I do a big Q&A at the yearly anniversary, if you ever have questions, feel free to leave a comment down below and I can address them, just directly back to you in the comments, or I can bring it up in a monthly creator update or whatever format may be most appropriate. I obviously try to reflect a little bit every month, but certainly on the yearly anniversary is a big time for reflection of me, of looking back at the whole year and where we've gotten and, hopefully looking to the year ahead and where we are going. And in doing so, it is just so obvious to me how many of you are in my corner, and I honestly can't express how much I appreciate that. Thank you again so much. I hope the rest of your day is magical, and we'll see you real soon at Pixie Dust PhD.